YouTube, how's it going? Welcome to TPB's Tech-Bodge Emporium. How are you all? How are you all? I recorded this intro already, but I wanted to make it shorter because the video's already fucking far too long. It's already far too long. I've tried to trim it down as much as possible, but I just can't get any trimmer. So hopefully you're not all hating on the fact that it's an hour and 50 minutes long. Basically, in this video, I've tried to hit a suggestion build for every price point. Well, as many price points as I can along the way. So you have an idea, depending on what price you're coming into. Especially as we're coming up into Christmas, you can have people looking for rigs for the kids, maybe something to throw together. Either way, doesn't matter. Whatever you plan on doing. Hopefully this video will help. Hopefully you find it interesting, and hopefully you find it helpful. Beyond that, I did say that I would give an update on the health, and I've had all my pre-op stuff. So I've done physical, had my bloods taken and all that. So the operation for my neck should happen in the next 3 months. I'm sure I'll find out exactly when soon enough. But up till now, that's where we're at. So I will have the operation done in the next sort of 3 months. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to the recovery. But as soon as I've got the operation and we've recovered and stuff, we can get into me getting back into shape. So that'll be also some content. But saying that, as I said, I've tried to do a build for every price point along the way. Hopefully I don't piss off too many people. If you're irritated by anything that I've said, or you disagree with anything, you would change anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your input. And also, if you make it to the end of the video, let me know in the comments, me or them. It doesn't make much sense at the minute, but it will do when you get to the end of the video. So which would it be? Would it be me or would it be them? Let me know. Feel free. Just drop a comment, either TPB or OCUK. Just drop a comment in the comments down below. Anyway, should we get into the video? We best hurry up and get into the video, because let's be honest, it's already too freaking long. So let's go. Right, guys, this is where things are going to get a little controversial. I'm sure people are going to disagree with my arguments and my points here, but they're my points. Feel free to argue. I would love to hear what you have to say down in the comments down below. So should we get into it? First, we're going to look at below £600. Don't forget, this is in the UK. The used, you're looking used really under £600. I wouldn't really buy new if I was spending under £600. And in the UK, we don't really have the same sort of used market that you do in, say, America or in Canada and stuff. You've got, if there's something that I don't know, then fair enough. But to be fair, I kind of spend a little bit of a premium when looking at used, purely because of the warranty that comes with it. So under £600, I'm really looking at just builds. This is where things like AM4, getting an AM4 system makes sense. But this is the easiest way I've found to separate stuff up in this system, in this website. So this in the UK is CEX. It's a used parts store, but the advantage you get is you get stuff like for example, a 2060 is not a great choice, but you get a 12700K there and 32 gigs of DDR4. Yeah, it's DDR4, but it's 32 gigs of it, and a 2060 for 450 quid. It's going to get you gaming, and it comes with a 5-year warranty. It's all down to a lot of these. You can have this one delivered. So if delivery is available, that means there's no glass panels. I can guarantee you that. And it means that whatever case it is, everything's really very well fixed in there. They've deemed it deliverable. Maybe it's under a certain weight or whatever. But anyway, free delivery. and well, it's not free delivery. I think it's like £2 or something. But yeah, 5 years free warranty. You can't complain at that. They're just gonna swap it out or give you credit for this amount. You can't argue with that. Like, for 5 years, you're probably going to have upgraded most of the components in here, but at the end of the day, that's good bones. That PC has got good bones. It's a 12700K with 32 gigs of DDR4. It's got good bones. So you could swap this out at some point. I mean, you could probably sell it to them, get credit for it. I think they give you like 80, 90 quid credit for this. You can have that knocked off another GPU. So this is, for me, if you're spending under 600 quid, this is what you should be doing. You should be looking for something that makes sense. Like this, for example, 12700, 32 gigs DDR5, 1TB SSD, and a 4068 gig for 550 quid. That's a bargain. You have to collect in store. Where is it? It's in Wigan. Someone, whoever, close to Wigan, if you're watching this video, they got this for 550 quid with a 5-year warranty. Go grab yourself a bargain, get gaming. What else have we got here? A 12700F with a 3070. 550 quid. Where is it? Oh, it's in Glasgow. Go grab a bargain. What else have we got in here? For another 550. That's a 10700KF, but it's still a good solid 8-core CPU and a 3060 Ti for 550 quid. Like, is it close to you? Where have they got one? Oh, it's in Newark. If you're in Newark, grab yourself a bargain. 550 quid with a 5-year warranty. That's decent. Like I said, the only problem I've got is it's 10th gen. That's not brilliant. But up here, look at that. Look at that. £500 for a 10700K with 32 gigs of DDR4 and a 2080 Super. And I'm not being funny, but the specs look like someone gave a crap about the PC, so it might even look quite nice. That is the disadvantage to this particular method of buying, but it's kind of like a lucky box, isn't it? You're looking for the specs, really. It's the specs that matter, and this would be an absolute killer little rig. That's a decent 8-core CPU. Unfortunately, you are locked out to say Gen 3, I think the I'm pretty sure it's Gen 3. I think Gen 4 came in 11th gen. So that's a bit of a downer, but you got a 2080 Super with that, and that's a solid card. Where's that system for 500 quid? It's in Grantham. Grab yourself a bargain. What else have we got in here? I'm having fun here. Look, 3060 Ti and an 11 700K, which means you've got that Gen 4 support, so it's a little bit better. And a 3060 Ti. It's still an 8GB card, but it's a very solid 8GB card, and it's £510. Smashing any PlayStation for that. Just saying. £510 with a 5-year warranty. Where's it at? Eltham. Grab yourself a bargain. If you're near Eltham, go grab yourself a bargain tomorrow. Like, these are obviously stuff at the moment of sale, you know, at this point. I've already looked at that one. What else we got here? There's another page. We've got a couple of Alienwares. It's not a bad. That's not a bad rig. 10700KF and a 2070 Super. It's not bad. But that one on the previous page with a 2080 Super for 500 quid is an absolute steal. And before anyone leaps down my throat, don't worry. I will show you what the problem is. There's not that many because we're staying under £600 here. There's not that many like full systems with anything
I mean, maybe if I put in... The site's weird. Desktops, in stock, there's 9. And they're all, like, kind of silly money. Like, a 7600X with 16 gigs, a DDR5 and a 3070 for 750 quid. We've already destroyed those specs over on the other side for 550 quid. So it's kind of pointless on this one. Although I will say, if we put in 5800X, cut it down to desktops, in stock, there's only 18. We might have a few under 600. We've got a couple. But that's not a negative thing. That is an absolute bargain. A 5800X with 16 gigs, a bit of storage, and a 3060 Ti for 490 quid. That's an absolute fucking bargain. Where is it? They have got one in Newcastle. Go grab yourself a bargain. Grange Street, was it? Newcastle, Granger Street. Oh, no! I'm sure you know how to say that. I'm sure I've probably butchered it. I apologise way ahead of time. But even up at the 600 point, I don't think that's worth 600 quid when you're paying 5 for that. A 5600X and a 4060 for 535 quid. That right there is a fucking bargain. Where have they got one? Doncaster. Go grab yourself a bargain. We're just going to scoot through a few of these so that I can just sort of give you an idea. I would stay away from this because anything 5000 series on AMD, I don't care. Come at me, bro. Anything on 5000 series is a garbage. The entire series is outpaced by a 3060. So this is a garbage. However, that is not bad. 5600X, 16 gigs, and 3060 for 470 quid. It's not bad. That's not bad. Where is it? Should we have a look? They've got one in Ipswich. Grab yourself a bargain. And one more. This other, it's an extra tenner. Maybe it's a little bit nicer, a little bit spicier. 5600X, 16 gigs, 3060. Where you at? Oh, there's 2 of them. There's one in Guildford and one in Crewe. Anyone close? Go grab yourself a bargain. This is a bargain with 5 years warranty. That's what I need to add. Let's go 5 years warranty. My point is, under £600, you can build a PC for under 600 quid, but I don't see the point in building a PC for under £600. I feel like when you're under £600, you're just looking for something that's gonna be like, you know, decent and give you some sort of like gaming straight away sort of thing. Like, and this route is probably your best bet. There are some insane deals in here if you know how to search properly. What I suggest you do is either choose like 5800X or like 12700K. If you put the K in, it seems to make a difference. Don't ask me why. But if you search those, then do what I did, which is click desktop, then click in stock, and then put a max price of like say 600 quid. So I feel like anything over there, you should really be building it. But look at this. That is an absolute steal of a machine for 625 quid. So, but that doesn't mean it's in stock. It's out of stock. You got to get that in stock. So click to desktops, click to in stock, and it'll show you what's in stock. We've only got a few here. But like, look at that 5900X with a 3070 for 650 quid. That's a freaking bargain. A 5700X 3D with a 7800X T for 820 quid is really good. That's like really good. It kind of makes building almost pointless when you can get this for this with 5 years warranty. Just so anyone's wondering, it's in Sheffield. Grab yourself a bargain. These are actual bargains. So anyway, now we've done a bit of bargain hunting. We've seen the sort of things that you can get second hand with a good warranty. I mean, look at that 5700X and a 4060 Ti for 760 quid. That's a decent price. Where is that at? They've got one in Basingstoke, Bishops, Storford and Chelmsford. Grab yourself a bargain. Right, anyway, now we've had a look at that, we're going to have a look at the build sections, and we're starting at like £700. That's pretty much where I would say it is really viable to be building a PC in the UK at the minute, especially if you're going to use sort of newish parts. We're going to get to the ish bit. This is the system that I would recommend for 700 quid. The only thing that I would change here is I wouldn't put this 14400F in there. I would go to CEX and I would get this 12600KF instead. They're basically the same sort of core layout and everything else. It's just this doesn't have any of the degradation issues, and it's also a little bit faster. The cores are a little bit faster. This is a better CPU, and it's 110 instead of the 112 over here. But that's the only thing that would change. I'll go through why I've made the decisions that I've made. Cooler, you don't need a cooler with this 14400F, but you will need a cooler for that 1200 because it's just going to come through as a CPU, and you didn't get a cooler with that level of CPU anyway. So you do need cooler. So 20 quid cooler. It's all right. It's kind of cold. It's got a little temperature gauge on the top to make it look. I think it fits the aesthetic of this case. And if you're wondering on the case, it's purely because it's 43 quid, and it comes with a bunch of fans, and it's got space in it. That's really the only reason I've gone with that case. Anyways, back to it. The motherboard. I chose this motherboard mainly because it's got decent NFIO, rear IO for you to use, and it's also got 1, 2, 3, 4 M.2 slots, which is one of the more important things that I look for in a motherboard. That's the basis of your build. That's the bit that everything connects to. So being able to have decent expandability with storage is just a no-brainer. So the more M.2 slots the motherboard can handle, the better in my eyes. RAM-wise, really it didn't matter. I think I should have just gone with the faster ones. Hold on. T16s. Latency down to 10. This is what you should do in here, by the way. So you know, you just take this first word latency, make sure it doesn't go over 10 nanoseconds, and then just pull your speed up to around 6,000. That way it's only going to show you the 32 gig kits with a cache latency with that first word latency of 10 nanoseconds, which is where you want it, and also the speed 6,000 or above. Now if we line it up with price, you'll see that the slightly faster DIMMs, they're better. They're the same freaking price, so we may as well go with them. Now you can save 40 quid. No, I think it's less than that. I think it's like £30 is the difference between building a DDR4 version of this rig and a DDR5 version of this rig. Basically, I think it's 25 quid, because this, the DDR4 version of this board, the exact board, just DDR4, is 110. And these RAM sticks, to have a 32 gig kit at DDR4 with that first word latency at 10 nanoseconds, which were a 3200 kit CL16, is like 20 quid. There's like 20 quid between them. So you're spending an extra £25 to be DDR5. And the advantage to this is, when you choose to upgrade this, you do have place in the socket. There is wiggle room in the socket above a 12600K. Like, it's not like you don't have an upgrade path. You just don't have anything new coming, and you can't do anything in the sense of, like X3D. So if you wanted to switch over to AMD or whatever, these DIMMs are still going to be able to carry with you. Now, if you built a DDR4 system, those DIMMs would not be able to carry with you, because you'd need to buy a whole new set of kit of RAM. So this way you kind of almost future-proof yourself for when you want to upgrade. Storage wise, at the minute, to keep to this price, you just stick with a 1TB boot drive. You can add storage at a later date. As you can see, this one is 55 quid for a 1TB for Gen 4 drive. It's kind of a no-brainer deal, and I trust Crucial, so it's one of those things. The GPU, the thing is, to hit this price point, we need to be at 50-50 money, and at 50-50 money, the B580 is the king at that price point. For me, if you're building a system between, say, 600 quid and 800 quid, in that 200 quid area, the B580 is the card that you want to be taking. Like, it just is. We'll bring this. I mean, it's not the best ever, because this actually tries saying that the B580 is far slower than the 5050, but I've seen that they're basically on par. I think I've got something here. You'll see. I got this because it literally does quite a decent job of sort of lining everything up, especially at these 4K points. Now, don't get me wrong, you wouldn't play the game at these levels, but it does show the difference between these 8GB cards and this 12GB card, and it shows that basically the B580, when all stresses are on the card in quite a few games, the B580 is quite close to the 5060, although when it comes to those 1080p points, that's when the 5060 and 9060 XT, they step up. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to excuse the fact that this is a little bit faster than this, but it's a little bit faster, and this is a little bit faster than this, and this is a little bit faster than this. But this is showing that in no world should you be buying the 5050 over a B580 when they're in the same price range. If the B580 steps up to the 5060 price range, then it's done. It's done. For me, the 5060 is a better card than the B580. It's a fair bit faster. Like I said, there's parts of this that I don't necessarily agree with, but there's parts of it that, well, no, this has the B580. What I'm saying is it's the 25%. I'm just not sure if there's 25% between the B580 and the 5060. Although, like I said, the B580 and the 5050, they're pretty much on par with each other, and the B580 has got more memory. It's got more VRAM, and XeSS is fairly well implemented into games. They have been pushing for that stuff. So for me, at this price point, that 600 to £800 price point, really you want to be looking at 12th gen on the socket and a B580 in the GPU bay. The case, I've just gone for the cheapest case that's got a load of fans and it's got space for this big ass GPU. The power supply, I would not recommend this power supply to anyone, but it's modular, it's 80 plus gold, and it's 45 quid. That's the only reason it's here. And for my US viewers, I found a hack, shall we say a kind of a hack that has allowed me to kind of do this. I don't know how accurate this is to your market, but it seems to be that it's just selecting the products I'm selecting, and then because I can just do this and if I refresh, it just changes this $1 over to yours. But on your market, it's better to buy the 12600K. Over here, it's 150 quid for 12600K and 112 quid for the 14400F. In your market, it's, I've seen one, the KF, 118 quid for the KF. Just get the KF, right? And yeah, I know this, but you haven't got the case or this in. And I had a look, and through this, I'm sure you'll be able to find a power supply that you're happy to use. And you know, should we say another $100 for a case and power supply for this rig? So it's probably going to cost you about $850 to match this 700 quid rig over here. So that is what I recommend for like 700 quid. Now we're going to step up now to that gap, that 800 to 900. Right, so for the £900 sort of mark, there's sort of anywhere between 700 quid and 900 quid. Yeah, if you're putting a build together in that area, I think that it is worth the extra. It's about an extra 50-60 quid to make it an AMD platform instead of a 12th gen. Now don't get me wrong, there is definitely space for 12th gen at this price point, especially if you're already on the socket. Quick CPU upgrade can make a massive difference, and the advantage is, you know, if you're already on DDR5, you're already a step ahead of AM4, which is also why I said that for that 600 to that sort of like 600 to 750 sort of mark, 12th gen really does shine there and kind of eradicates anything that was before it, including AM4. Unfortunately, both of them don't have like future upgrades coming. Both platforms are dead in that terms. But with 12th gen, especially when you were looking at a 12600K, it's not like you can't upgrade that platform further. Plus you're already on DDR5, whereas AM4 is stuck on DDR4. And I'm not trying to take away from the X3D chips over there. If you have an AM4 platform, then yes, just upgrade your CPU. It's no-brainer. But if you're building a system to give yourself a level of future-proof, 12th gen just kind of eradicates those older platforms. I'd just like to take a moment quickly to just mention that if you did decide to stay on 12th gen for this particular price point, all you would really need to do is just upgrade the CPU to 12700KF, which I think is on CEX for like 160 quid. And it would actually be a better build than this, but it doesn't have the future proof that this does because of the socket. Because it allows you to have DDR5. It's got PCIe Gen 5. It's got basically all of the new stuff, but you can also use the old stuff with it as well if you want to. It's kind of that middle platform, but it's good because of all the issues that they had with 13th and 14th gen, means that Intel's prices have plummeted a little bit because older CPUs don't usually drop that much in price. And like I said, for me, this on the market is 150, 160 quid. It's 110 quid here. It's this 12700KF, 160 quid here. It's like 190. So you see there's savings all the way along, and it's the same with AMD. The advantage with these LGA sockets is, to be fair, they're pretty goddamn tough. You're only really killing them by cooking them with an overclock or something, and with the pads underneath, just give them an alcohol wipe, just get rid of any grease that might have touched them, and you're good to go. Anything past that, there are like, you know, little resistors and stuff on there that could be knocked and stuff, so they have a level of delicacy to them, but in general the actual CPU is really pretty solid and kind of flawless. So on an LGA socket, I find second-hand CPUs with a 5-year warranty are definitely worth looking at. And this 7600 here, it's 153 quid new. You're not getting a cooler with it, you're just getting a box. So what does it matter? And you come over here, 7600, 130 quid straight away. 5-year warranty, the delivery is available. They will send it to your house for like 2 quid or something. And they've got stock, they've got quite a few of them. So it's not like you couldn't do this realistically at the moment. So yeah, I would do that. I would knock 25 quid off the prices, keep it under 900 quid. And this is what I would do. I would just literally step that up. The reason I've gone with this motherboard is because this motherboard gives you those 4 M.2 slots, and it's got half decent I/O. This motherboard's going to be staying with us for a few builds, including this power supply. I already upgraded the power supply. I didn't like that Game Max one. It was purely just to save money, and I was looking an 84 quid for a fully modular power supply, and I like these Fantech amps. There's one reason I like them. Look at all those juicy 8 pins. This is a 750 watt power supply, and it's got 5 juicy 8 pins and a 12 volt high power. Like, direct feed. You couldn't ask for a better power supply at 750 watts, and it's gold plus, and it's 85 quid. And I think it's just totally worth making sure that, because this power supply is going to be staying with us for a few configs moving up, because you can already see we're nowhere near using it, but it gives you that future proof, and it makes sure that you're safe in those terms. So with the GPU, I've obviously upgraded your storage, added an extra terabyte so that you've got some game storage separate, but again, 4 slots, so you've got another 2 slots for you to be able to upgrade past this. This is just to keep it at that £900 mark. GPU wise, out of the two, I would pick the 5060 Ti, the 5060 8GB over the 9060 8GB. The reason I'll grab a 9060 8GB right now. Hold on. I just knocked the price. We take this Reaper, one of the cheapest ones. Look at the price difference. There isn't any, and this has 5% at best, at very, very best, 5% extra raster performance. But this has got MFG, reflex, better upscaling, and better support all across the board in game. Plus CUDA, it's good for other stuff. Like, out of these two cards, with them being this close in performance and price, if you're an AMD fanboy, get the 9060 XT. You're not really missing out on a whole load. But if you don't care what manufacturer it is, whether it's AMD or Nvidia, you don't care, you just want the better option for you, for longevity of the card lasting a bit longer in the sense of running games, because of the better DLSS, because of reflex, because of like more integration of that software, because and hardware, because of multi-frame gen, it's a better option at this price. So at this price point, even though I don't necessarily want to recommend an 8GB card, these two cards are just far too fast in comparison to the 580 for me not to. Like, these are the top boys at 1080p, these two. So unfortunately, I have to recommend at this price point an 8GB card, and unfortunately it's a 5060 because it comes with more. They're the same at the same price. It has more stuff. So if you don't care whether it's Nvidia or AMD, get the 5060. If you care whether it's Nvidia, get the 5060. If you care that it's AMD, get the 9060 XT. You're not really missing a huge load. You know, you've already chose AMD. You're willing to put up with the fact that it doesn't have some of the stuff that Nvidia says. You would probably tell the entire world that it doesn't matter and it's useless and it looks like garbage anyway, even though you've not used it. You probably say that because you love AMD, and that is fine. Hit up in the comments, tell me how wrong I am choosing the 5060 over the 9060 XT 8GB. Tell me. I'm happy to reply and tell you how you're wrong. Spicy. Right, anyway, moving up, we're going to go to that like 1100 mark. 1,000 to 11. Right, okay guys, so at £1,000, well, we've just tipped over a little over, but I feel like it's worth it for what I've done. Really, I haven't done a whole lot from the 900 quid build. All I've really done is I've upped your game storage from 1 terabyte to 2 terabytes, and I've made it a faster drive. It was a fiver, it made sense. And I've also stepped up to the GPU that we're going to see for a couple of sections here, and that's the 9060 XT 16GB, because if you are buying at 320 quid, this is it. If you're buying a new card, this is it. However, I will say, certainly in the UK at this precise moment in time, on the used market, this does have a competitor in the shape of this. A 3080 10GB, 320 quid. They'll deliver it. How many have they got? They've got 1, 2, 3, they've got 5. They've got 5 of them. This flavour. Obviously there's more and they're a little bit more expensive, but you know, you've got this gigabyte one here in stock. They've got a few of them as well, and that's 335. So they're roughly around the same sort of money. If you look for the right one, look at that EVGA. They've got a few of them as well for 340 quid. So, and before anyone goes, oh, but it's got 10 gigs of VRAM. Yeah, it has, but we're talking that point of entry level 1440p, god tier 1080p, and 10 gigs of VRAM is going to be absolutely sweet for that spot. And I would also, should we bring in, like I said, I use this just because of how easily it is to just sort of just have an idea of where cards lie in comparison with each other. But 9060 XT 16GB, according to this, the 3080 is 18% faster. So at 1440p, because this is entry level 1440p sort of category with the 9060 XT and that, like entry to mid level 1440p, come at me all you want. 9070 non-XT and the 5070 are your mid-range 1440p cards. The 60 Ti class and 60 XT class are your entry level 1440p beast mode 1080p cards. And then again, you've got the 5070 Ti and the 9070 XT, which are basically your entry level 4K, entry level to mid range 4K cards, and beast mode 1440p cards. It's just how it's laid out. And the 3080 is 18%, almost 20% faster. So yeah, it's got a little bit less VRAM, but it's faster. It's got access to DLSS, reflex. The only thing it hasn't got access to is the frame gen, and you know, it's all integrated in more places, and it's the same money. If you're buying one at the same money, I would go with a 3080, especially when this 3080 once again comes with a 5-year warranty. You're probably going to want to upgrade it before the warranty runs out. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like, and again, with a site like this, if they've got the card that you want to upgrade to, then you're onto a winner again. These 80 classes from the 30 series are like sort of god tier second-hand market cards at the minute. Because the 3080 Ti, you need to remember, people don't think about it, but the 3080 Ti is actually just a 3090 with 12 gigs. That's all it is. It's basically the same die, everything. That's why when you look, I'll show you on this chart. I'll show you. Let's find the, look. There's 2% between them. And I can guarantee that 2% is created by the fact that it's got double the RAM. Like, they're the same card, just this has got 12 gigs of VRAM. So a 3080 Ti is a really good buy if it's cheaper than you'd be paying for a 5070, because a 5070 just has better hardware on it, and it's got the same VRAM, and it runs at a lower power draw, and it's just a better card. But if you can get the 3080 Ti for a good chunk cheaper than the 5070, then that could be a buy. So yeah, £1,000, this is what I would do. Now, going up to that sort of like 1250 mark, right guys, for the £1,200 to 1250, 12 to 1300 quid, this is what I would do. I would have kept that 9060 XT or the 3080, whichever you've chosen to stick with. I would take that 9600X out and throw a 7700X in there instead. Give it a 240 AIO. We'll just kind of, not only have we've obviously stepped up the performance by adding an extra 2 cores on the CPU, the rest of what the changes have been sort of like niceties, partly prettying up the rig a little. We're now on an AIO which can handle the CPU better, and it looked a bit nicer. We've got these G-Skill RAM sticks in here, they're just prettier instead of the grey, white and red. Like, it's kind of a bit sort of done what you can fit in the rig at that point. Now we're just sort of making the rig sort of coherent, because if someone's buying a 1200 quid rig, they expect it to look like a 1200 quid rig, whereas what under £1,000 you just kind of throwing stuff in there that fits the value at sometimes, whereas this, we prettied up the RAM. There's, like I said, there's certain stages where you're upgrading your hardware and making the system actually faster, and then there's certain upgrade levels where you're just prettying things up a little. And the difference between 1000 and 1200, I would say just swap the CPU out, keep it as a 9060 XT, swap the CPU out, and then just pretty up the rig a bit. 240 AIO, we've gone with a different case. This is my favourite sort of budget case, which is the Focus 2 from Fractal. The build quality in this case is just absolutely friggin' awesome. I've got one upstairs. It costs something like a £5 to make these RGB fans, so why not? It comes with those two 140mm fans. There's space for a 250 up top. There's room to build that 250 up top and still not be too impeding on the motherboard, which is nice. Obviously got space for a 120. It's got a nice bit of width. Covers the power supply with this little sort of half shroud. It doesn't fully cover it, but it's just a nice case to build in. Everything fits really nice. It's really easy to build in. The build quality is really good. There's thumb screws on literally everything, and it's just a really nice case for the money. And that, with this AIO with a matching fan on the back, on that back portion, you've got the power supply to run everything, and 9060 XT with a 7700X. That's a freaking banging rig for 1250 quid. So 1200 to 1250. If you're in the UK, feel free to build this rig. I know I haven't flicked back to the US for the last couple of rigs. I do apologise. I'll try and remember to just flick back and do that. The only thing that isn't in source is like power supply. So if you say like another $80 or something for a power supply, it's going to cost you about $1,400 for this particular setup. It's kind of one of those, isn't it? Like, that is kind of the exchange difference, to be fair. So they're somewhat on a par at the minute, like, so it's still doable. so even across the pond at the moment. I know that some of the GPUs can be sort of like here and there on the pricing. I mean, this seems kind of a little bit crazy on the price for a 9060 XT, but hey, it's not that bad. It's quite close to MSRP. It's not bad, is it? I've seen worse. Things are just a little bit more expensive. It is what it is, isn't it? But like I said, everything's pretty much there except for the power supply. I apologise that I didn't check back on the $1,000 rig. I'll try and remember at each stage to check back and see how it looks over on the other side of the pond. Right, so going from here, we're going to step up to the £1,500 rig. For £1,500, this is what I suggest, and I think it's an absolute banger of a setup. What I have done in a change, in difference, is I have swapped the 9060 XT out for a 9070 because it is faster, and I feel like at 1,500 quid, that's where you're going to step up that margin. I've also stepped up the storage to 4 terabytes. I don't think we should necessarily need to do that, but why not? I feel like at this £1,500 mark, this is where the 9070 and also the 5070 shines. Let me show you why. I'll just pull up a 5070. You've already seen that it's like basically just shy of 1,500 quid, all of that. So if I just line these up now, go with this one, not the cheapest. We'll go with this Palette Infinity because they're kind of the same. 3 fan cards. Now this is £30 cheaper. Now let me put it into perspective, right? Yes, the 9070 XT has got more VRAM, but these are 1440p cards, and for the most part, at the level that these cards are running at, I don't think 12 gigabytes is really that much of an issue at present. You need to remember that there is a VRAM overhead with AMD GPUs. It's like about a gig, 2 gigs. We'll say a gigabyte overhead for the same sort of task. So that 4 gigabyte headroom is more like a 3 gigabyte real world difference, but it's still a difference. But on the other side of the scale is you've got better integration of the software that NVIDIA offers to use with the card. There's more features, so the support on that side is better. There's only 10% performance between these raw raster, but you turn that RT on and the 5070 is then has either closed that gap or is starting to stretch it out the other way. So for me, it's a flip of a coin, really. Like, I'd probably think about saving the 30 quid and like maybe changing the case out, adding some fans or something. Personally, because if you went with that gives you an extra 40 quid. This is at 74, so you sack that off, choose a case. I personally would probably come into here, probably get the C5 for this particular moment, because then you can sack off this fan because it comes with a full set of 7 fans, and you're still within, so you could take the 9070 if you wanted to. Like, that was probably what I would do, just switch out for something like that case wise. I think the C8 is a better looking case. It's a bit bigger, a bit taller, a bit nicer to work in, but for the money and the fact that it comes with 7 fans, and as you can see, space for a 360 up top, I think this is a good buy for this build. And just so that it fits and stuff, you could at this point just literally switch that out for the 360, because it's not that much more expensive, and you're still under 1,500 quid, and it's close enough under 1,500 quid that it wouldn't matter whether you went with this or the 9070. But this is what I would suggest at 1,500 quid. If you want to spend 1,500 quid on a PC, get yourself a 7700X. Get this motherboard because it's got 4 M.2 slots. Get some nice looking RAM, and you've got 1 terabyte boot drive with 4 terabytes of gaming storage right there. and a 5070 or a 9070X or a 9070 non-XT. Get this on Tech for C5, and you're off to the races. Under 50 and 100 quid. How much is it over on the US side? Should we give it a refresh? $1,800. Well, you got to add 70 quid for the power supply, but so yeah, $1,900 is what this would cost to build over on your side of the pond. That seems crazy though. Do not buy this GPU. Do not buy that GPU. That is crazy money. You're heavier than friggin' 5070 then. See, that seems like a much more sensible option. That's better. Just over 1,500. So maybe just over 1,650, I'd say. It would cost you in the US to build a similar rig with a different card. I just have to refresh this so that it gives me that card. See, we're still at 1,500 quid, so I could leave that card there, that pay on Y. That's fine. So yeah, 1,500 quid, this is what I would suggest. Either a 5070 or a 9070, but the rest of it, pretty much that. Like I said, we're going to keep this power supply for a good while, and so is this board staying put, and probably the RAM for the next few configurations. So we're going to jump up to 1,750 now. Right, guys, so at 1,750 to 1,800 quid, this is what I would recommend. A 7800X3D, same motherboard, same RAM, same 1TB boot drive with a 4TB game drive, but we're using a 9670 XT. I've gone with the cheapest option at this price point, and we've stepped up the case to an Antec C8. It's just a little bit bigger, it's a little bit nicer to work in. I think it's a good looking case, and it would make the build look really nice. And a full set of fans, and that's at like 1,750 to 1,800 pounds. Let's have a look how it looks over on the US side. Again, we're still stuck with that power supply, so we still need to add 80 quid there and 50 quid for some fans. So we'll say $120 added onto this price. So you're basically looking at $2,000 for this build. And as I'm looking at it go up, I feel like $2,000 is not a bad price for this build. Like, there's not a lot that you would be needing for a wee while. Anyways, that's the 17 to 1,800 mark. Now we're heading for that £2,000 mark. Right, okay guys, so at the sort of £2,000 mark, this is what I would go with. Basically, it's pretty much the same build. I've gone for a bit of a better looking case. It's basically the same case, it's just got a little wood panel on it. Looks really nice. There's like a fiver in it, but it looks really nice, especially for the aesthetic I would be going for with this build, because one of the big changes that I've made from being on the 1,750 mark, 17 to 1,800 mark, is if I'm at this point at £2,000, I'm not just choosing the cheapest 9070 XT I can find on the market. I'm picking the one that I want, because it gives you that headroom. And that's why I have chosen this card, because I personally think that this Sapphire Nitro Plus is basically the best looking card that AMD has produced this year. I love this backplate thing. I'm pretty sure it's a 12 volt high power as well, which is kind of crazy, but I love the fact that the cables are sort of tucked away from here, and with the way the case is, you're literally going to be able to just come straight out of there and just tuck those cables straight into that hole there, and you wouldn't even notice they were there. And it would look so clean in this build. So basically at this point, this £2,000 point, you're either choosing the 9070 XT you want, or you're aiming at like one of the cheaper end on the 5070 Ti. Although, funnily enough, the cheaper end of the 5070 Ti is kind of, it would look good in this build. Funnily enough, which is the SFF over here in the UK. They're basically the same money, so you can pick and choose. I will say, however, that between these two, the 5070 Ti is classed on average. I think it's like 2 to 3% more. Hold on, we'll have a look. We'll have a look in here. I've used this so far for every other judgment, so why not? Let's grab the 9070. Look, there's 5%. This is showing the 5070 Ti 5% faster. Some have said 3%. They're so close to each other in raw performance that you could consider the differences basically run variants. They're that close to each other. So in raw performance, yes, they are the same card. However, you turn on some RT features and the 5070 Ti is going to start to fly. It also has multi-frame gen, DLSS 4, which has got better support in games. It's also, it's got reflex. So there are features that come with the 5070 Ti that you don't get on the 9070 XT. But in raw performance, they're basically the same. So for me, at this price point, I would probably just, using my logical mind, knock the 5070 Ti, the 9070 XT off this and just keep it as the build as it's sitting. People would argue with that, but that's fine. That's the whole point. You're supposed to have taste, flavors. That's the whole point in it. And over in the US, how much would it cost you to build this big? You haven't got the power supply in cost, so you're going to be spending like $130, $150 to match the power supply. Oh, I forgot to say, I also upgraded the power supply from that 750 gold to this 1000 watt 80 plus platinum, again from Fantech, again because of look at all those juicy 8 pins. Look at it. 4 8 pins plus 2 for the CPU, so 6 8 pins plus a 12 volt high power. That is a power supply right there. So that's why I've upgraded that, because I just feel like you're upgrading everything up. But over in the US, I think that this is ridiculously priced. There are better 5070 prices. I think the normal one's even better than that over in the US. It's really weird how the prices work. But yeah, you've got cards here for 750. Do you know what I mean? So like, you don't need to be spending that money on this card, which also knocks this down like 300 quid. Knocks it down 400 quid. So 400 quid, and then for the power supply, you're roughly around the same sort of $2,000 mark for this build. Just don't buy this card. Don't buy a 5070 Ti. Not at this $2,000 mark, where you want to be shopping for a 5070 Ti at this $2,000 mark is by clicking this price, so it's cheapest to highest, and you want to be buying one of these at this price point to just keep that 2K mark. So yeah, at £2,000 you're basically buying the cheapest 5070 Ti you can get your hands on, or close to, and all of this, or picking the 9070 XT that you like if you're an AMD fanboy. That's fine, you can be that, it's fine. You're not really losing out too much, certainly not on raw horsepower, but obviously any game that has RT, you're going to fall back behind a little bit, and any game that has that has a decent implementation of multi-frame gen as a single player title, that's going to come into play as well. I'm not a big advocate of MFG, but it's a feature that comes with the card, and it doesn't come with the 9070 XT, so I have to mention it. Anyways, moving on. up to we're gonna leap now to 2,500 because I feel like that's the mark before we hit the big dogs. Right, guys. So at 2,500 pounds, see, 2,500 quid. What I would do is I would step it up to a 9800 X3D. No brainer. May as well get the fastest gaming CPU going. Stepped up the motherboard. This one, I've chosen this one because it's got 5 M.2 slots. It's got 1 PCIe Gen 5, 3 Gen 4s and 1 Gen 3. But the Gen 3, you just put your boot drive in it. You don't have to worry about it past there. On top of that, I've also increased the storage. So instead of just 1 terabyte boot drive with a 4 terabyte game storage, I've 1 terabyte boot drive. It's now got 8 terabytes of game storage, and you've got 4 terabytes of long-term storage that can just sit in the back, rolling along, and you just check all your videos, your music, your pictures, your documents, all the crap that you don't want cluttering the rest of your PC up. You just chuck it on that hard drive. You don't think about it until you need it again. You know, that's what you do. You just throw it on there until you need it, and then it'll just be there. The advantage with hard drives, you're probably there going, oh, why don't you just get an SSD? Because SSDs, fundamentally, the way that they work, they can't last as long as a hard drive can. And a hard drive sort of low power draw just keeps spinning along in the background until you need it. And if you keep it spinning, it will last for almost ever until it's worn itself out. But it's only going to wear itself out when you use it. And if you're only using it to drop videos and pictures and music and documents onto it and then reading those, then it's literally ideal for that very thing. And that means that you can keep your boot drive free for the boot drive and any apps, and then the game drives can just be game drives. And when you've got them split like this, what I would do is I would use, say I buy most of my games on Steam, I would have one drive as my Steam drive, and I'd use the other drive for any other places that I've got like 1 or 2 games, say like Epic, where you've got 1 or 2 games on there, or Xbox or anything like that. I would just throw all those onto the other drive. PCs always work better when everything's rolling nicely and it's all working well. I also upgraded the GPU to this PNY model, mostly because it's got good boost clocks, and you know, it's more in keeping with a GPU, you know, that you're buying because you like it rather than it just being the cheapest model. I kind of tried to aim somewhere middle of the road on the 5070 Ti. Now, I know some of you are probably wondering why there's not a 5080 in this rig. It's because me personally, I believe that you should just skip that class. For me, the 5070 Ti is basically a 5080 with 15% less performance. So at 100 FPS on a 5070 Ti, you're going to get maybe 115 FPS on a 5080. And more often than not, it's like 400 or 500 quid more expensive for that 15%. Now, me personally, I don't consider £200 being worth paying for 15% performance when everything else is the same. It's got all the same software support, it's got all the same features, it's got literally everything. And that's also why, to those AMD fans there, also why I've knocked the 9070 XT out of this situation. Yes, when comparing up against the 5070 Ti at raw horsepower, they are basically the same GPU. But the 9070 XT is not a 5080 with 15% less performance. It's a raw performance comparison to a card that is 15% less of a 5080, but the 5070 is fundamentally the same card, same hardware, same software, same support, same way, same processors, same down to the friggin' resistors that are being used. They're the same freaking card. It's just got 15% less performance. That is why the 5070 Ti is still there and the 9070 XT is out of the equation. That's why, because it's just a 5080 with a little less performance. There's nothing else that the 5080 offers over it, and the amount of extra money that you pay on it, I would rather have another 4 terabytes of game drive and 4 terabytes of long-term storage over getting a 5080 over a 5070 Ti. But that's just me. That's just me. What can I say, guys? It's just me. But that's how I view it. You don't have to, but that's how I view it. So, yeah. I mean, realistically, I probably wouldn't even get this card. I would probably tell you to get something like what I've got here, which is the game with Phoenix Golden Sample, because it's a really good card. Like it runs really cool. It's quiet and it's fast, and it overclocks like an absolute little beast. The reason I've gone with the one I've gone with is because the boost clocks are just so much higher than everyone else's. It's right up there with the boost clocks of the Astral, so that's why I went with that one. But you know, that Phoenix Golden Sample is like 750 quid, so it's not even that much of a difference in price. You're looking at maybe 30 quid less for the card that I've got here. But this, in all seriousness, this looks like a decent card. I'm not sure if I'm into this, but I don't know whether it's RGB or it just stays like that. But it's quite a good looking card. It's got a half decent pass through in it. I don't like this bit. Why this big block is covering that pass through, I don't know. But you know, it boosts high and like I said, it's in that sort of price range of you just picking a 5070 Ti that you like because you've got the price, you've got the budget. But for me, like I said, I would up the storage, maybe make the rig a little bit prettier and stuff like that over getting a 5080. I would rather have this extra storage than have a 50 with a 5070 Ti than have a 5080 with basically 8 terabytes less storage. But that's me, you know, that's me. But that's the 2500 mark. So I figured for the next stage, which basically are the 5090s. Right, just quickly before we jump over onto the other side, if you're curious on the 2500 rig, do not spend $1250 on a freaking 5070 Ti, right? Because it's $1200 for the $2,500 pound rig. Like I said, I went for one that I liked. So I would say, with the pricing on these things, get it right, come on. With the prices on these things, you're looking around sort of like 800 to 820, and you're basically getting a card that you're gonna like the look of. You know, I think this SFF would look really good in this particular build anyway. So if you set that off and put that there instead, you're at that 2500 mark, and you're literally at the same build, $2,500, and this is a baller rig. Right, this is a baller rig for 2,500 quid. Right, okay, yeah, it's going to be 2650 because you need to get a power supply. There's a price available for this. But if this is anything to go by, if the UK prices are anything to go by, you can probably get hold of this power supply for like $150. So, you know, like I said, 2650, and you're pretty much there, you know. Right. So guys, so for the last two systems that we're going to look at, which are, you know, real high-end bougie rigs, we're going to have a look at these couple of 50. I thought we'd look at a couple of 5090 rigs, and I would see what I could offer with delivery. We're talking hand delivered in the UK from me. What I would be able to build and hand deliver for you in the same sort of price point. So first up we've got this, and I'm not going to knock him. I'm not going to knock Overclockers. I think this is actually a really good build with a really good price point. I'm not kidding. 3,700 quid. I think the rig looks really nice. I think this Fantech case is actually just genuinely a nice case. The GPU sag in the photo shocks me a little bit. Like, come on, guys. Like, just eliminate the GPU sag for the photo, innit? I mean, each their own. I would have eliminated that for the photo. But either way, this is a genuinely good looking PC. And for 3,700 quid, the specs are decent. You're looking at a 9800 X3D with a 5090 with a 1200 watt gold power supply, 32 gigs of 6000 megahertz mega transfers RAM, but the storage, you just get a 2 gigabyte Gen 4 M.2 SSD, which means your boot drive is on with your storage. Each their own, but if you came to me, asked me to build a PC and I was going to hand deliver it to you, you would basically get the same rig, a little bit faster RAM. In fact, no, my bad, I did make a slight mistake. This is what I would offer you, like, for me to hand deliver it to you. This is the build that I would offer to you, and that is a 9800 X3D. Pretty much, basically everything's the same, apart from the motherboard that they're using in this one. It doesn't actually say, but I did a bit of visual studying on the photo, and it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. This ROG Strix B650. It's a decent board, but one thing I would like to bring to your attention is this. There's only 3 slots of M.2. So even though my motherboard might not be as fancy looking, it is on a slightly newer chipset, so it's on the most recent chipset, so it's already got newer hardware on it than the 650. There's not that much difference between them, but there is a little bit. Plus it's got an extra M.2 slot. I would say this is probably Gen 3. These two here are probably Gen 4, and that there is Gen 5 drive with the PCIe Gen 5 slot. That would be my guess. It's on a better chipset with more M.2 support, and everything else is, you've got basically the same CPU, same level of cooler, a better motherboard, slightly faster RAM. I'm offering you, instead of giving you a 2 terabyte boot drive, I'm giving you a 1 terabyte boot drive with a 4 terabyte game drive. We've got 5090. It's actually a slightly better model than what they're showing there. This is the amped Extreme Infinity, whereas the one they're showing in that model is what looks to me like a Zotac core. That looks like a core to me. So slightly better, slightly faster RAM, slightly better motherboard, far more storage, and I would hand deliver this rig. And yeah, you've got a 1000 watt power supply instead of an 1100 watts, instead of a 1200 watt gold, but this is a platinum, and we're at 890 watts. There's another 100 watts there to play with, and it's platinum. You're fine. You don't need any more than that power supply in this rig. And yeah, yes, it says 3,400 there, but I'm including setting this up, building it, putting a Windows key on here, and hand delivering that in that extra bit of money. So I'm saying for the 3,700 quid that you would pay to have this from here, I would custom build you this rig and hand deliver it to you, and also give you my private number as tech support. You would also get all the boxes for everything, and I'd help you set up so that the storage is going to the right places and stuff. But this is what I would offer you. So you get a little bit more storage, bit of a better motherboard, but in general, their build isn't that egregious. You know, the motherboard is a bit more of an expensive motherboard, but it's an older one. You can tell that they're using older stock because it's an E. Not a lot of people buy the E's. They're a bit bigger, they're a bit wider for mostly no reason. So a lot of people don't buy them. So companies like this will use them up, but it's a good looking board. This is a good looking system, and I don't think it's actually that egregious for 3,700 quid. However, for 3,700 quid, you could have me hand deliver this one for you. And arguably, I would say that mine would look better. I think this is a better looking case. Right, anyways, we've got one more build. My bad. 37 with a power supply. So 3850 to build what I would offer. And I think this is an absolute killer build for the money. Absolute killer build. To have that much sort of game storage and stuff, and everything's sort of like up to date, and yeah, it's just a good build, good solid build. So that is an option for you, right? So we've got one more build to go out of these. They've only got two 5090 builds, and this is the other one. If I was going to say something was egregious, this is egregious. This is Overclockers UK's big, all singing, all dancing rig. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a very pretty PC. It's a very pretty PC, and I can see that it's got the Astral. I can see it's got the Asus Astral in there, and I am willing to openly admit that this is basically one of the best looking cards of this generation. Flat out, if not the best looking card of this generation. However, I'm not going to take away from the fact that I've seen the motherboard on it, I've seen the board on it and stuff. I'm aware that it is genuinely quite well built, and it's got some solutions taken into account that are better than some of the other boards, a lot of the other boards. It's over-engineered. It is. I'm not going to take away from that. And it is the card that everyone's pushing the big numbers on. However, it is £500 more expensive than the same GPU. Performance-wise, no difference. You are not gaining any difference at 500 from that £500 when you're using this card in game. No difference. The only difference you're going to get is when you turn your head to the side. And yes, I see this AIO with the fancy little curved round. I'm not fussed by it. Those kind of things could obviously be brought into price, but I'm not fussed by that kind of thing. Well, a 360 AIO, it's the same as any other 360 AIO. It's just got this fancy bit on here, and the fact of the matter is that screen adds about 200 quid to the price of the cooler. It's like a 300 quid cooler. Like, why? It's not cooling it any better. Yeah, it displays your temps, but you can have that on your screen. Like, it's not, but no biggie. You can literally buy a little screen to do that very same thing. So that's no biggie for me, and I would choose not to go with that for that very reason. But we're talking at a £6,300 ring, so this has got to have some serious specs, right? And I wouldn't be wrong in that guesstimation. It does have some serious specs. Where is it? My bad. It's got a 9950X3D. It's on an X870E Crosshair Hero motherboard. It is a bit of a beast of a motherboard. I'm not going to take away from that. That is genuinely a bit of a beast of a motherboard. I did have a look, and it's got 5 M.2 supports, and the M.2 supports are, there's 3 Gen 5 PCIe slots, M.2 slots, and 2 Gen 4s, whereas we'll get to that in a minute, the motherboard that I've chosen. But storage wise, you get 1 terabyte boot drive, and then you've got a 2 terabyte game drive, theoretically, with a 1200 watt platinum power supply. So it's pretty highly spec'd. So 6,300 quid. And yes, okay, you're getting 3 years parts and labour warranty with it. And with me, you're going to get me answering the phone, coming down and fixing it if I can. And when it comes to parts, obviously because I'll have made the purchases, I'm happy to work with sorting out the RMA for stuff, but I can't replace parts. I've got no money. I can't replace parts. But with me, you would get like, it's me that you're ringing. You're not ringing some call center in Dubai. You're just ringing me, and I'm just gonna tell you. I'm gonna answer at any given moment, and we can see if we can see the problem. However, the sort of build that you would get for this sort of money off me, I don't think it would need any attention for years, other than driver and BIOS updates. But we'll get to that in a minute. 6,300 quid. I wanted to see what I could provide to you for £6,300 if you asked me, if you commissioned a build with me, what would I do for 6,300 quid? And I decided this is what you get from Overclockers. It's a beautiful rig. I'm not trying to take away from how pretty the rig is, but 6,300 quid, come on guys, come on. I'm not trying to take away from Overclockers, I use them all the freaking time, but 6,300 quid, come on guys. This is what I would give you for 6,300 quid, and I'm telling you now that I would deliver it, hand deliver it, and I would set it up. You'll see what I mean. And I would literally full setup. I would come and set this up for you. I would literally hand deliver it, set it up, and make sure all the storage is going to the right places and stuff. And this is what you would get off me. So again, 9950 X3D, same as they've got over there. An X870 Nova. Now this is not as highly spec'd as the crosshair that they've got. This does have 5 slots, but those 5 slots, I'll bring it up now. Right, so yeah, this does have 5 slots for the M.2s, but as you can see here, the 5 slots are mixed between a Gen 3 slot here, which is what you would just put your boot drive in. It doesn't make any difference. You might gain like 4 seconds or something when the system turns on. That's about it. Just put your boot drive in the Gen 3 drive and never ever need to worry about it being a Gen 3 drive ever again. Right, then up here under this heatsink will be your Gen 5 drive, and then you've got 3 Gen 4 drives here. So you put your boot drive in here, you put your Gen 5 fast Gen 5 game drive in here, you put the second game drive here, and then you've got 2 spare slots for any other Gen 4 M.2s or any M.2 really. It'll work in there. So that's why I went with this board. So it's not quite as highly spec'd as the one that they've got there, but it's still got basically the same capabilities. On top of that, I've gone with this Corsair Vengeance kit because I think it'll look better in the aesthetic of the build that I've decided to go with this as a comparison to theirs. So on the storage wise though, they gave you 1 terabyte of boot drive and 2 terabytes of game drive, I think. Yeah, 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte game drive. I would give you a 1 terabyte boot drive and 2 4 terabyte game drives, one being a PCIe Gen 5 so you can use that top slot, and one being a Gen 4 because you don't need anything faster than Gen 4 because that's what the slot is. And then past that, I would also give you a 16 terabyte hard drive for long-term storage. And when I got there, I would set it up so that your apps save to your boot drive, your games save to your game drives, and like I said, I would probably use this as my Steam drive and then use this one down here for anything like Xbox, Epic, like basically anything that I've got, like, you know, like 1 or 2 games on that particular platform, just put them all on the other one and then just keep that top one for just Steam, and then you don't really ever fully fill the drives, and the drives work better when they're under half full. Everyone knows that. So I would help you set that up, and then obviously any videos, pictures, music or documents just all get dumped on the hard drive. They don't impede anywhere on the rest of your system. They're just out the way on the hard drive, and they're always going to be there for you to grab, because hard drives are friggin' wicked when it comes to long-term storage. So that is what I would offer you in storage. So basically I'm offering you another 22 terabytes of storage for the same money here, and I would hand deliver it and set it up. And yeah, I would give you my number as tech support for the foreseeable, basically. Still on that 5070, we've got this Zotac Gaming Amp Extreme Infinity. It's just a bit of a fancier one, isn't it? But it kind of looked good in the build, and it's at a decent price. But again, I was kind of up in the air. I think these Zotac cards would look really, really good in this build that I'm setting up here, but it's sort of like, I don't know, even though let me order it in price, even though at this moment, because of an offer going on, this Zotac Gaming Amp Extreme Infinity is at a lower price. I swear that's the card that everyone was having some levels of issues with, and I do think that the Gaming Solid would probably look better in the card, in the system, and for the sake of 30 quid, I just think it might look better in the PC with this with the sort of black and gold aesthetic, with the design I'm going with. Just go with a slightly more expensive. It doesn't matter where it comes from, really, but that's what I would go with. You got the 5090 in there, same as the other side. Yes, it's not an Astral, but does it really matter? For the sake of what, literally the Astral is like 2600 quid. So it's literally the sake of 500 quid difference between this card and the Astral. Is there any point? Case wise, I've basically stuck with the C8, but I've gone with this curved version because I just think it looks a little bit classier, and with that Zotac card in there and everything's just sort of like black and nicely curved, like with the Corsair RAM, and so it's all very clean, and I think the build would look really, really nice in here. Obviously you got a full set of Arctic fans to go with the cooler and stuff, but I ain't done. You're thinking, he's offered a fair old bit more than overclockers. Oh, I ain't done. This is just the system. Obviously we've got a 1300 watt platinum instead of their 1200 watt platinum, so it's a little bit more power supply, but to be honest, you've got 300 watts to play with. So basically this system right in front of you here, I can't see you ever needing to do anything other than upgrade a driver or a BIOS, and the only thing that would ever need necessarily to be upgraded in the next sort of like 10 years is possibly the GPU, and we all know that 90 classes hold their money pretty well, so you get the majority of that money back if you come to sell it. And there's another 300 watts on top of that 600 watts that card is using for an upgrade. So you've got the space for it if the upgrade came round, and that's the only thing that you would really need to touch in the build. Everything else would be solid. It's all really good, reliable stuff. I like Crucial Storage, I like Seagate hard drives. I trust them with RAM, Corsair or G-Skill in general. I trust both those companies, even though I have had issues with Corsair before, but I just think these DIMMs would look really well in this build. But moving on from there, in addition to the PC, for £6,300 delivered to your door, and I would set it up. You got to remember, I'm including delivery and setup with this, and we're still in the £6,300. I'm almost kind of pointing out how ridiculous this is, and the fact that it's reduced from 7,500. Like, I'm just pointing out how ridiculous that is, because this is the PC. This is as far as overclockers that took you. Me, still in the 6,300, still delivered, to your door and set up and help set up and stuff and have it all set up, I would also give you a 4K QLED Dell Alienware 32-inch 240Hz monitor and an additional 27-inch 4K 120Hz IPS Dell monitor for an upright to one side. The reason I've gone 27-inch is because anything over 27-inch as an upright, it looks fucking ridiculous, guys. Just don't do it. It looks ridiculous. 27-inch is ideal for upright, and you know it's for freaking Discord chat and maybe a bit of consuming of product. And plus, with it being a 4K monitor, when it's on the side, basically it's just two 1440p monitors. So if you are watching content, you're watching it at 1440p. So you've got nothing to complain about on the side monitor. And again, this is all in the same price that Overclockers UK are selling them just the system at. I'm giving you two monitors, and one of them is a 32-inch OLED with 240Hz QD OLED. So two monitors, two high-spec monitors. Also, I would throw a keyboard and mouse in there. I've just gone safe. I'm a bit of a Logitech fanboy, and you can't really go wrong with a G915. I'm not saying that it's the best keyboard out there, but as peripherals that come with a pre-built go, that's a pretty banging keyboard. And the mouse, it takes no, I don't need to explain why I've chosen a Pro X Superlight DeX. The DeX just means that you can choose to be wired or optical or wireless. I think the DeX just means dexterity. It just means it does both. But wireless, this is an absolutely wicked mouse. Super light, super fast DPI, and it's just a wicked mouse. These are peripherals that you could just use. And I would also include a set of drop PC38Xs as headset, and I'd give you a little bit of a desk mat as well, and I would come and set it all for 6,300 quid. So with me, you get an extra 22 gigabytes of storage, an extra, let that sink in, an extra 22 gigabytes of storage. You get a 32-inch 4K 240Hz monitor, an extra 4K 27-inch 120Hz monitor, a G915 keyboard, a Pro X Superlight DeX mouse, and a pair of drop PC38Xs, all for 6,300 quid, all for the same price that they're asking for this. Personally, I'd be commissioning this from me if I was going to spend that sort of money. And if you're wondering how much would it cost to build, 5,700. And if you're thinking, oh come on Trip, 6,300, yeah, with a straight face. I have to build this thing, deliver it to you, hand deliver it to you, and set it up. They're just giving you a PC and sending it to your house for 6,300 quid. I'm giving you a PC and a 2-monitor setup with a QD OLED as one of the monitors, and some Logitech peripherals, and a pair of drop PC38Xs, and another 22 gigabytes of storage, 22 terabytes of storage, and I'd be hand delivering it and setting it up for you. So yes, 6,300 with a straight face, because obviously I'd have to pay to get it there. There's fuel involved and stuff, but that is what I would give you for the money that Overclockers UK are charging on this build at its reduced price. We don't even want to go into the sort of setup that you would get at its non-reduced price. So I'm just saying, this is a freaking steal for 6,300. And in the US, if you're curious how much it would probably cost to for this whole setup that I just had lined up, that's actually not bad. price on a 3090, on a 5090 over there. You've got the power supply. You've got pretty much everything but the keyboard, really. So yeah, it would cost you to build it, I would say, with the keyboard, roughly what, 6,500 quid, and you would have a PC that you basically just would not be able to, you would not need to upgrade for, I'm going to be safe and say 5-6 years. I think you probably wouldn't need to upgrade this for far longer than that, but with the way tech moves, you never know. But even if you did need to upgrade something, it's only going to be that GPU. And let's be fair, when are you going to really need to upgrade a 5090 in the next few years? You're not going to. You're not going to fill any of that storage up. It's just going to keep being there. Like, it's basically, I can't see you needing to even think about storage for the next few years. And yeah, the PC's not going to need anything. You've got 9950X3D in there with 64 gigs of fast RAM on a really good motherboard. Yeah, with a ridiculously good main monitor and a really decent second monitor, decent peripherals. Like, this is the kind of setup that you pay me 6,300 quid, I deliver, I set it up, I get it all set up so that everything's saved into the right place, and all you have to do is just walk up and just play games. That's it. You would never have to really think about anything other than maybe, like I said, some driver updates, but other than that, just play games. And for me, I think that's freaking elite. But yeah, if you're in the States and you wanted to build this big dick build, it would cost you about 6,500. Because the only thing that's missing here, price wise, is the keyboard and some fans. But I think saying 6,500, that's enough space for you to get a keyboard and some fans in, right? So yeah, $6,500, and you've basically got a PC that you don't need to touch for years. So it's however you look at it, but I wouldn't be paying £6,300 to overclockers for this. And you can ignore the plus this on the game, because I think if I choose the right freaking card from them, I get it anyway. So yeah, I wouldn't be paying 6,300 for this when you could come see me and I would build and set up this whole setup for that money. I would deliver it to your house, hand deliver it. So you don't even have to worry about delivery drivers messing your shit up. It's gonna be like fucking wearing a seatbelt on a back seat somewhere on its way to you. That's how it would be hand delivered. But I would deliver you this for 6,300, and the fact that I can fit this much more stuff in and still be able to make a profit and be able to pay for delivery, you know, for fuel and stuff to get it to you, and still be able to have a bit of room in there, some wiggle room in there for the effort that I'm making. Plus, I would give you support. Like I said, I can't give you part replacement, but I would definitely push the
RMA.
Yeah, I would do the returns for you. That's not a problem. And obviously I would lend tech support for any issues that might occur from the PC. But in general, this is an absolute killer build, and yeah, this is what you'd get off me for 6,300. So you could either get this off me for 6,300 with me as a tech support, and me come and set it up, build full, everything set up, ready to go. You just walk up and play games on it. Or you can pay 6,300 to overclockers here for a build with 22 terabytes less storage. 22 terabytes less storage. No monitors, no keyboard, no mouse, no headset, for the same money, and they're just gonna drop it at your door. So, me personally, I'd come see me and get get me to commission a build. But that's completely up to you, isn't it? If you're in the UK, hit me up in the comments, let me know. Maybe we can see about getting a build together for you. Doesn't have to be this thing, but come see me. I would not rip you off. We would have a look and I would compare. That seems to be the best way for me to go about it, but you could give me a price range and I would probably throw a build together for you. We could see if you wanted to commission it, and then I'd come and drop it off to you. And if I could, I'd film the build so you could watch that happen. I'd also film your reaction if that would be okay. We wouldn't have to happen though, but I would film the build and probably some of the unboxings, especially products that I hadn't done before. Just telling you. But yeah, like I said, 6,300 quid, come see me, you get a full setup with 2 monitors and an extra 22 terabytes of storage. Or you could go overclockers and pay 6,300 quid for just a system with 22 terabytes less storage. Either way, hope you've enjoyed the video. It's been a hell of a fucking long one. I'm going to have to trim the shit out of this. But I will see you in the next one. Love you, bye.
Hey guys, look, if you've made it this far in the video, you are one of the fucking real ones, and I fucking love you for it. But just a quick one, as I said, me or them, which are you going with? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'm genuinely serious. I would commission a build. If someone commissioned a build with me, I would do it. Also, let me know what you would change about the configurations. Let me know how you think I got on. Let me know what you think of my configurations and how I set the PC up, and my choices. Let me know whether you agree with them, disagree with them. I want to hear it all. I do. You guys are what makes this fun. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Love you, bye.
Like and subscribe. Thank you.